All rise. The 18th District Court for the State of Michigan is now in session. The Honorable Judge Sandra Ferencz Ciccarelli presiding.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me all right? All right. Good morning. Please be seated. Well, we're here in celebration of Constitution Day, and I do want to thank a couple of people for making this possible for us. This is our 4th year here at Franklin Middle School. Before we came to middle school here at Franklin, we were at Stevenson, and before that, there was a time where these were held at John Glenn High School. But we're here today to celebrate Constitution Day, and some of the important parts of our Constitution that we deal with every day would be the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself, the Fourth Amendment about unlawful search and seizures, the right to have a speedy trial and be represented by an attorney if you can't afford to have one. So as we go through the cases, I will probably make a few comments here and there, but I want to start off by thanking your principal, Mr. Kenty Rosser, for making this possible and allowing us to come here to Franklin this morning. And of course, Dave Mason. He is always the most instrumental person in helping us put this together logistically and getting this running. And finally, before we begin this morning, I would like to introduce some very important people who are here and took the time out of their busy schedules to be with us here this morning. I see we have the Mayor of Wayne, Susan Rowe. Mayor Rowe, thank you for attending. And then we have 2 esteemed members of the Wayne Westland School Board, Mr. Tom Buckaloo and Ms. Melanie Hines. Welcome. Thank you for attending as well. All right, you should have your packets there that talk about some of these cases, and we've tried to pick some very interesting cases for you this morning, so we'll get started. We're going to start off with a sentencing this morning, a retail fraud sentencing, and this is number 7 in your packet. Calling the matter of Jomana Hamden, case number 18WE13387A. This is here for sentencing. Again, this is number 7. The interesting thing about this case is Ms. Hampton did plead guilty to committing retail fraud from Kohl's. She and a friend were together, and as you read through that, you'll see that they also had shoplifted from Ulta at the mall, as well as JCPenney. Those stores recovered their merchandise, did not wish to proceed, but Kohl's did, and so we are here. All right, good morning, Mr. Weinberg.
Good morning, Your Honor. For the record, Darren Weinberg, be up Ms. Hamden.
And ma'am, your name for the record?
Joanna Hamden.
All right, and Mr. Weinberg, have you and she reviewed the pre-sentence report that was prepared?
We have, Your Honor. We find this factually accurate. We're asking the court to adopt the recommendations. I did discuss with her these issues. She's 18 years of age. She has no prior criminal history. States she is very embarrassed by what she did with respect to this. She knows she should be doing better than that. She has a goal to be a dental hygienist. Plans on, or she is in school right now at Washington Community College. She did graduate high school. She didn't spend a lot of time in jail, but she did spend parts of 2 days, so it did have an impact on her. But I think she's got a pretty bright future, and she realizes the importance of trying to do what she's told to do regarding this case, so it will be dismissed under the HIDTA statute. So we are asking you to address that or adopt that also.
Okay. And Ms. Hamden, this is also your opportunity to address the court before sentencing. Is there anything that you would like to say or add?
No.
Did you find the jail facilities to be of your liking?
No.
No, right? That's not a good place to be. And so, did you learn something from this experience?
It was a really big learning experience.
Okay, very good. And then that's the important thing, is that you learn something. All right, there is a fine of $200, court costs of $100, state mandated cost of $125. The court is going to give you an opportunity to keep this off your record by taking it under the Holmes Youthful Training Act. What that means is if you complete probation successfully, complete all of the terms that you're ordered to do, stay at that time, it will be dismissed and not be on your record, and therefore not interfere or complicate your ambition of your future goals. You understand that?
Yes.
Conditions of probation, you're to attend the economic crime program, you're to write an apology letter to each of the store managers at Ulta, Kohl's, and JCPenney. You're to obtain and maintain a job, stay out of the Westland Mall during probation, stay out of all Kohl's stores, all Ulta stores, and all JCPenney stores. Use no illegal drugs, not be around any illegal drugs, and you'll be asked to submit to random drug screens. Do 5 days on the voluntary work program with fee and 2 days in jail with credit for the 2 that you served. So you won't be serving any additional, but the 2 days that you served, we're going to give you credit for. Any questions?
No, that is
Okay, you did post a bond, so we're going to apply the bond to the fines and costs first, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
You said 200 was remaining?
No, they're gonna
No,
add it
they'll-
all back at the courthouse.
Right,
They'll
and
apply
they'll
your
go.
bond, and then the balance shows up.
Okay, all right, you're welcome. One of the things that I find extremely incredible is that people still think they can go and this is retail fraud or shoplifting and get away with it, because we've had members of the security, and Mr. Myers, I'm going to introduce the staff next, used to work at Kohl's in security. They have just walls full of cameras and that are showing on the walls. You can't get away with it. Not only do they have all of the cameras there with constant wall monitoring, but they have people on the floor monitoring as well. In this day and age of technology, you really can't get away with it. So when you're at the mall or you're at the store and some friend of yours or someone you're with says, hey, let's do this, it's not a good idea. And if you read number 7, I don't know if you got your packets ahead of time, you'll see that they thought it was fun. They were just going to go, and so they went to 3 different stores to try to and they did actually take some merchandise, but they got caught, and then most people usually do. I am remiss a little bit in introducing the people who are important also up here today. I want to, I'm Judge Cicerelli, by the way, for those of you who don't know me. I'm one of the judges in our Westland District Court. Judge McConnell is the other judge, and then Judge Mack from Wayne she will do one of the later hours as well with a different group. I've been around a long time in the city. I served on the city council for 12 years. 6 years of that, I was council president. Then I was mayor of Westland for 5 years, and I've been here in the court now this is my 12th year already. So I enjoy this because I see it as helping people, and hopefully part of helping people will be helping you as students so that you can see what, happens if you get in trouble. And we do have some first offender programs. The Homes Youthful Training Act is one, so that if you do make a mistake and it's not a super serious mistake, you have an opportunity to keep the offense off your record. That's really important. And you will be surprised. Who knows at what age you are an adult for criminal purposes? Yes, sir. Not 18. Everybody thinks that, and this is important. Yes, sir. Nope, not 21. In the back. Nope, in between. Yes. 17. 17. That is extremely important for all of you to remember that. Share that with your brothers and sisters and your friends, because at 17, under the eyes of the law, you are an adult for criminal purposes. What that means is we have high school students come before us. And it can affect scholarships. It can affect, obviously, your future getting into a college or your career as well. But remember, it is 17, and we do see high school students. All right, let me make some introductions. We cannot proceed without our city prosecutor. We have Mr. Mike McNamara. Mr. McNamara, he is the prosecutor, and his job, I'll let him talk about that in a minute when we get a plea, will be to talk with the defense attorney or the defendant and see if there's a way to work it out or what we need to do. Then we also have our defense counsel, Mr. Weinberg. That's Darren Weinberg. He is here this morning. And you saw he was representing Ms. Hamden, the young lady that was here. So his job is to represent the indigent defendants, people. And then my staff, I have Darlene Smolinski, who is my court reporter and my secretary, so she does double duty. I have Steve DeWald in the orange shirt. He is my court officer. He's been my court officer since I have taken the bench. And we have Mr. Brian Mars, who is one of my other court officers. And again, he was one of the security people before he came to the court for Kohl's. So he knows about those issues as well. All right, calling the next matter, that is Mr. Fred Biggs Jr., case number 18WE13042A. This is number 6. on your docket. This is here for a continued pretrial. Mr. Weinberg, good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. For the record, Darren Wyberg, on behalf of Mr. Biggs.
Sir, your name for the record.
Fred A. Biggs, Jr.
All right. And Mr. Weinberg, I see that you're asking for a continuance.
Yes, Your Honor. This was adjourned once so I could get the in-car video. I did review it. I believe there is a potential legal issue with respect to operating on this charge. Obviously, it's an operating under the influence, operating while intoxicated charge, and one of the elements would be operating issue. So I'm asking at this time to set for an evidentiary hearing on that issue.
All right. So Mr. Biggs is here for an operating while intoxicated, which is drunk driving, and one of the initial issues Mr. Weinberg would tell you is, was the stop valid, was the first thing that they look at, and then there may be some other legal challenges. So he is requesting a motion hearing, meaning that would be a time where we would come in and take some testimony of the officers and any other witnesses that would be appropriate. All right, Mr. Weinberg, I'm looking at Wednesday, October 17th at 1:30. And we'll see everybody back here that time and that date for a motion hearing.
Did you read what I wrote?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, we'll give each of you a notice and we'll see you back here then. Mr. Weinberg, do you want to talk about what the motion is? It's actually an evidentiary hearing. We're going to take some testimony.
As I indicated, Your Honor, I think it has to do with whether there's any evidence of operation. When the officers came up on my client, his vehicle was parked in the back part of a closed business, and I believe the evidence will show that he was drinking actually in his car parked there without ever operating at any time.
Okay, so
that's-
that would be his issue.
That would
Okay.
be our issue, Your Honor.
All right, very good. All right, calling the matter of Amanda Fleissig, cases number 18-WE07, 740A, B, and C. This is here for a pretrial. It's number 4 on your docket. This is a charge of violating the public health code by possessing some drugs, as well as a second charge, possession of improper prescription drugs. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Ronald D. Roberts, appearing on behalf of Ms. Fleissig, who's standing to my right.
All right, your name, ma'am, for the record?
Amanda Fleissig.
All right. Mr. Roberts, I see that you met with Mr. McNamara. Mr. McNamara, as far as the plea offer this morning?
Yes, we did. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. I did have an opportunity to meet with Mr. Roberts. It appears we are able to resolve this case this morning with the defendant pleading guilty to the violation of the public health code, which was the marijuana charge under 7411. The improper prescription drugs and the civil infraction would be dismissed under that plea agreement.
All right. Is that your understanding of the plea offer, Ms. Fleissig?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that what you would like to do today?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I see that you did sign, as part of your constitutional rights, the advice of rights form here. Did you read and understand it?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any questions of Mr. Roberts, your attorney, or the court about any of those rights?
No, Your Honor.
Is anyone today forcing you to enter into this plea rather than set this for a trial?
No.
On May 14 of this year, were you on Grand Traverse Street here in the city of Westland?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you violate the public health code by possessing a controlled substance?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was that?
Marijuana.
Marijuana. Court is accepting the guilty plea on the A file, which is violation of the public health code by possessing a controlled substance. Court is going to dismiss the improper prescription charge, or use of improper drugs, as well as the civil infraction. Court will also, Ms. Fleissig, give you an opportunity to keep this off your record by taking it under 7411. What that is that's a portion of the Controlled Substance Act that allows you to keep this off your record if you complete probation successfully. All right, Mr. Roberts, I am going to refer this over to probation for a pre-sentence investigation recommendation.
Do we need to address anything else, like the term of the height or no?
No, we can address that. Probation will make a recommendation, and when we come back for sentencing, we can take care of those issues. All right, I am looking at, let's see. October 17, is that good for you as well? We can do morning or afternoon.
1 second, please. which is coming October 17th. Where is it? Right here. October 17th.
We can do the 17th or 18th.
1 second, I think they're both good days.
All right.
October, wait a second, I'm in September. Both are good dates.
Okay, so we'll see everybody here October 17th at 8:30.
And you do mean at the court, Judge?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that will be back at the courthouse.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome. Ms. Leisig, we're going to have you go over, when you back to the courthouse over to probation, you'll meet with someone there and get a date to come back, because you
Can
will
the
need
bond
to
be
meet with them
continued?
prior to that October date. And you will not be needed for that, Ms. Roberts, but we will see you at the sentencing.
17th, bond continued, Judge?
Bond is continued in the
Thank you.
interim. You're welcome.
That's it.
We rely in our court, as every court does, on our probation department. Now, this young lady was charged with having prescription drugs, not just something simple, but an illegal substance if you don't have a valid prescription, as well as possession of marijuana. So as part of the plea bargain, one of those charges was dismissed. She pled to one. But we refer this to probation, and the probation, they will meet with the individual if there is a victim. And our court is really big on making sure that any victim is compensated if they had a loss of some kind. So they will look into that. They then look at the person's record and some other factors, and they make a recommendation to the judges as far as what the appropriate sentence should be. And then when the lawyers come back with their clients, they have an opportunity to review that pre-sentence report. And at that time, then the court would sentence her. But again, you notice that we took that one under another first offender program, and that's the Controlled Substance Act. That's the Drug Act, and that says when you can't possess marijuana or any other illegal drugs like cocaine or heroin, there is a portion of that act that does allow for people to be placed on probation. If they complete it successfully, and that random drug screens are always going to be a part of something like that. If we think the person has a real problem, we have what we call a color system, so a color drug screen program where they may be tested 2, 3, 4 times a week, and then maybe not again for another week. So those are really important as well. All right, we're going to next do the number 1 on your in your packet there, Christopher Garrick. This is case number 18WE16359. Mr. Garrick is here this morning for a pretrial on an animal cruelty charge. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am.
Will you state your name for the record?
Christopher Garrick.
All right, Mr. Garrett, I see you met with Mr. McNamara on this. Mr. McNamara?
Yes, Your Honor. I met with Mr. Garrick, and he is going to take responsibility for leaving his dog in the vehicle on a warm day while he was at the Best Buy store.
Okay.
He did indicate to me that he does love his dog. It's his companion, and thank goodness there was nothing that happened
Yeah.
to the dog. But he did realize that it was under the circumstances with the weather and the amount of time that he should not have left the dog in the vehicle for that long.
All right. Mr. Garrick, is that correct, sir? You're going to be admitting to this charge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I see also that you did sign the advice of rights form here. Did you read and understand it?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions at all about these rights?
No, ma'am.
All right. Is anyone forcing you today to enter into this plea rather than set the case for trial?
No, ma'am.
On August 19 of this year, were you at the, on Central City Parkway at the Best Buy parking lot there here
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
city of Westland? And at that time, did you leave your dog in the car while you were in the store shopping on a hot day?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, court's accepted the plea of guilty to that charge. Court will take this under the delayed sentencing statute, 771.1, to give you an opportunity to keep this off your record. All right, so this is a case where someone did call into the police the fact that there was a dog locked in a hot car, and so that obviously is a misdemeanor crime. All right, I will refer this for a pre-sentence investigation recommendation. We'll see you October the 17th at 1:30 for sentencing. All right, so when you go back to probation, they'll give you a date to come back and meet with them, and then we'll see you, and that will be back at the Westland Courthouse. All
Yes,
right?
ma'am. Thank
All
you.
right, you're welcome. right, next we're going to do number 12 in your packet. Calling the matter of Ariana Hassan, case number 18WE15894, A, B, and C. These are all here today for a pretrial. All right, Mr. Weinberg, will you, before you get started, to explain to the students what a pretrial is?
And our pretrial is the beginning process after the arraignment that the case is set, where the defense attorney, or if the person's representing themselves, gets to look at the evidence, talk with the prosecutor, and try to figure out if the case should be dismissed, what an appropriate offer is, or whether the case should be set for trial. And in this case, I think after discussing with Mr. McNamara, we have come up with a resolution where my client would be pleading guilty to the charge of fraud under Homes Youthful Trainee Act. The other charges against her would be dismissed per the plea agreement. She's been advised of her right to go to trial. She's indicated she'd like to waive her trial right, plead guilty this time to the fraud charge. I believe the restitution was $20, is that correct? Correct.
All right, and ma'am, your name for the record?
Ariana Hassan?
Is that your understanding of the plea offer?
Yes.
All right, so students, this young lady was charged, first of all, with fraud for passing a counterfeit $20 bill. And then she was charged with receiving and concealing the merchandise that she received from that transaction. And then she finally was charged with a driving offense about allowing an unlicensed driver to drive her vehicle. And then Mr. McNamara, you offered the plea offer where she'll be pleading to the one charge of fraud, correct?
The charge of fraud with no entry at the Family Dollar store, and there is $20 in restitution, Your Honor.
All right. And Ms. Hassan, that is what you wish to do this morning?
Yes.
I see that you did sign this advice of rights form. Did you read and understand it?
Yes.
Any questions of Mr. Weinberg or the court about any of those rights?
No.
Anyone forcing you today to enter into the plea rather than set this for trial?
No.
On August 6th of this year, were you at the Family Dollar store on Wayne Road in the city of Westland?
Yes.
And did you commit a fraud?
Yes.
And how was it that you committed a fraud?
I passed the counterfeit 20.
All right. Court is going to accept the plea of guilty on the A file, which is the fraud charge, dismiss both the B and C files. Mr. Weinberg, looks, the court is going to take this under the Homes Youthful Training Act, but it looks like your client has not ever been in trouble before, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. So, Ms. Hassan, did you learn something from this?
Definitely.
All right, I'm going to assume you didn't make that counterfeit 20, did you?
No, I did
All right, so, but you know someone who did, correct?
Yes.
Sometimes it's wise to choose your friends wisely and not follow along with that, correct?
Correct.
Did you learn something from this?
Yes.
And Mr. Weinberg, did your client spend any overnights in jail?
Just one overnight, Your Honor, parts of 2 days.
All right. What can you tell me for purposes of sentencing about your client? Is she working, going to school?
You know, she's 18, she's not on probation or parole, it's the first time in trouble. She did graduate high school, she's employed working at a through a temp service at this time. As indicated, she spent one overnight in custody. I think she realizes the gain of what you could have received for the counterfeit 20, obviously, it's not just about getting caught, but it's not worth it anyways, because it's not worth the risk of what she put herself in, especially someone that has a future that wants to improve on her work from year to year. They look at these things, so at this point, if she does meet the terms and conditions, I explained to her that this would be dismissed against her, which is a value to her, and I think she is taking this serious and has hopefully opened her eyes to the situation and won't put herself back in this type of spot again.
All right, this is also your opportunity, Ms. Hassan, to address the court before sentencing. Is there anything you would like to say or add?
No.
Okay. Did you learn something from this experience?
Yes, I did.
All right, and you want to make sure that you complete probation successfully so this is dismissed, because theft crimes especially, or fraud, really will impact any future chances of getting a good job. So, all right. All right, there is a fine of $150, court costs of $120, and state mandated costs of $125. Court's going to place you on 1 year of probation. Oversight fees are $20 per month. Conditions of probation are that you remain out of all Family Dollar stores, that you pay $20 of restitution to Family Dollar. You'll pay that to the court, because the court's going to order that you stay out, as I said, out of all Family Dollar stores. You pay that to the court, we will forward it then to the Family Dollar store. Do 3 days on the voluntary work program with fee and 2 days in jail with credit that you served. We'll have you did post a bond as well, so that will be applied to some of your fines and costs. And we'll have you go back over to the courthouse and they will go over this with you again, put it in writing, and then get you started. All right? All right, I did
luck.
take it under the Home Youth for Training Act.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. All right, as part of the sentencing, you saw that we did give restitution back to Family Dollar. They showed us that there was $20 from the $20 fake bill, but we'll make sure that they are made whole by receiving that back. If it was a malicious destruction of property, maybe somebody came and they broke out your window on purpose with a brick, we would make sure that that person paid restitution to the property owner for whatever the cost of replacing that window would be as well. All right, we're going to do a sentencing next for a drunk driver. Operating while intoxicated is also known as drunk driving. Calling the matter of Matthew Vincentini, case number 18-WE15602. A and C are here for sentencing. All right, Mr. Weinberg.
Your Honor, for the record, Darren Weinberg on behalf of Mr. Vincentini.
This is number 15 in your packet.
Your Honor, today we're here for sentencing. We've had an opportunity to review the pre-sentence report. Mr. Vincentini indicates it's factually accurate. There are no additions, corrections, or deletions. I have gone through it with him. Essentially, he is interested and eligible to get into our sobriety court. I know that he's been interviewed by Travia Crawford, and he is open to this. He's realized at this point that even though he's a young man, every time he's been in trouble, it had to do with substances, in particular with alcohol. The program is designed to, it's not a magic pill to get in the program and your problems are gone, but if you work the program and work through the process, it puts you in a better position than you are when you start. He's excited about it, open for it, and he's asking the court to adopt the recommendations at this time.
All right, and do we have Mr. Lang here?
I don't see him right now, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, what we have in Westland is we have a sobriety court. And to get into our sobriety court, you have to have at least 2 drunk driving offenses. This young man is 22 years old. He is so young, he has this whole future ahead, and that future is not going to be very bright if he does not get his alcohol problem under control. The court also looked at several things when sentencing, and we look at the fact that he does have some prior minor and possession charges, convictions. That means he was under the age of 21 and possessed alcohol. And he has a prior drunk driving in 2015 when he was just, what, 19, 20 years old. Our sobriety court is meant to help people. Remember that part of sentencing is to as sanctions or punishment, but more importantly, a lot of times it is for rehabilitation and help. And in this case, our sobriety court is a program that we sentence people to 18 months in that sobriety court. If people do what they are expected to do, they may only serve 15 months, but it's a lifestyle change, and it helps people change not only their use of alcohol or illegal drugs, but it helps them learn some new tools how to deal with and handle the urge to drink. And so it's an extremely important program. It's very successful. We're very proud of our sobriety court program, and this young man is asked to be admitted into it, and the court's going to admit him into that. And because he's so young, especially, but it doesn't matter whether you're 60 or you're 20, that program is the same. It's an extremely intensive program. That's why I thought maybe if Mr. Lang was here, he could talk about it. It requires people to immediately get into intensive outpatient counseling and therapy, then follow up after that with continued counseling. They come in maybe every day and do alcohol testing, breathalyzers every day, or it's a very, very intensive program. But again, it's been successful because it does help the individuals change their lifestyle and their way of living. And we can see people how they look when they enter the program. Mr. Weinberg, I don't know if you want to talk about that, some of your clients perhaps. And by the time they leave the program, they just look different, they act different, and they feel better, correct?
Yeah, it's what you put into anything. So if they work hard at it, we've seen a lot of successes.
We
We've
have.
seen failures with it too.
Sure,
But
we have.
as I explained to Mr. Vincentini, that I think if he works hard at it, which I expect he will, and he shows up on time, he'll be better off being in the program than not being in it.
Yeah.
The recidivism rate, the rate of committing a crime again goes down significantly after being in a program like this. So,
Yeah.
and the goal is to make sure he doesn't get another one, and I think his eyes are wide open to his issues. That's
Right.
part of it, and I think he's very positive about his entry into the program.
Okay. And Mr. Vincentini, you'll find that we do meet every other week. So every other Monday in my courtroom, we meet at 3 o'clock. And so your employer, you've worked out all of those issues so that you'll be able to work around that schedule and attend our...
Yes, they're aware.
Okay, because these are mandatory meetings. Do we have Avery Fisher here? Now you'll note that this incident resulted in an accident where he was driving drunk and he actually was involved in an accident. Probation did look into whether restitution is owed to the other driver, and so that would be part of any sentence as well. All right, Mr. Vincentini, is there anything you would like to say or add before the court sentence you?
No thanks.
All right, and you spend any overnights in jail?
Just one overnight.
One overnight. All right, the court is prepared to follow the recommendation of probation. There is a fine of $300, court cost of $420, state mandated cost of $125. Court's going to place you on 18 months of probation in our sobriety court. Oversight fees are $50 a month. You're to pay restitution to the city for the cost of your arrest in the amount of $325. Pay the alcohol evaluation fee of $125. You're to attend the MAD Victim Impact Panel. Obviously not consume any alcohol, frequent any bars, use any illegal drugs, not be around any illegal drugs or drug paraphernalia. You'll be asked to submit to random drug screens and also some PBTs. You're to comply with all of the terms of the sobriety court that will involve the counseling and all of the meetings that are required. Do 20 days on the voluntary work program with fee and 2 days in jail with credit for 2 served. You did post a bond, so we'll have you go back over to the courthouse. You'll meet with Ms. Crawford again, sign the contract, and we'll get you started. Our next review hearing happens to be a week from today, so we'll see, correct? Yes. So we will see you next Monday at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Thank you.
That'll be your first one. Thank you. All right. One of the things that when I talk with especially young people, we see that they don't like certain things of the sentencing, but that's just a consequence, right? And one of the things that I hear most often that they really don't like is the voluntary work program. There are 2 kinds of work programs that we are involved with our court and in most courts. One is police work program. What that is, that's kind of like a last chance effort. So if you're not complying with probation or doing what you should do, that is like, it is basically a jail sentence, but you will go out and do the work program. If you violate, if you're late or you miss, then the police can just take you right to jail and you will serve the rest of your time in jail instead of doing the work program. There's no charge for that because that is considered to be a jail sentence. On the other hand, we have at our courthouse a voluntary work program where our people are able to do that there rather than at the police station. But you get to pay $30 per day for that luxury of working on the work program. But people will say, I'm so embarrassed if I'm cleaning up the streets or I'm doing something at the Friendship Center and people see me and then my friends know that I got in trouble. So that tends to be a big deterrent sometimes when they find out they could be doing work program. I believe we have Ms. Grove present. Ms. Grove is here. Thank you, Mrs. Grove, for coming in this morning to our Constitution Day. We appreciate you. And Mrs. Grove, yay. Are you still at Stevenson, Mrs. Grove? Yeah. You're at the district office. Okay, because last year she was the principal over at Stevenson Middle School. All right, very good. All right. Time-wise, how are we doing? Oh, They're telling me I'm running behind.
Yes.
But I'd like to make this more, I'm hoping, at least, I hope I'm accomplishing my goal, of explaining things to you as well so that you can see what happens. Number one, how it can affect your future, what some of the sentencings might be, and so you know, don't let your friends influence you. That's a big part of it, is choosing wise friends, wisely your friends, I should say. All right, calling the matter of Kariah Greenwell. This is number 10 in your packet. This is here for a pretrial. Good morning, Mr. Weinberg.
Good morning, Darren Weinberg, behalf of Ms. Greenwell, who's approaching.
Your name for the record?
What's your name?
Kiera Greenwell.
Hi, good morning, Ms. Greenwell. Mr. McNamara, I see that you did offer a plea again to Ms. Greenwell.
That's correct, Your Honor. Ms. Greenwell has the charges of fraud, receiving and concealing stolen property, and never acquiring a driver's license. It's my understanding she's going to plead guilty to the fraud under the Home Useful Trainee Act. The remaining charges would be dismissed with the condition of paying the $20 restitution, and again, no entry in Family Dollar stores.
All right.
And to explain this, Ms. Greenwell, I also discussed with her, since I had Ms. Hassan also as a client, whether there be a conflict. She indicates there would not be a conflict. You feel I could represent both of you adequately. Is that correct?
Yes.
We discussed the offer. At this time, she's prepared to accept the offer to the fraud under the Home Useful Trainee Act, restitution $20 and no entry in the Family Dollar. Understands the rest of the charge will be dismissed. She's prepared at this time to put her plea on the record.
All right, is that correct, Ms. Greenwell?
Yes.
And did you learn something from this experience?
Yes. A
All
lot.
right. What was it you learned?
Mainly what you just said about picking the right people to be
Picking
around.
right friends, right, making good selections with friends. Or if you're with a friend and they have a lapse of judgment and say, hey, let's do this, walk away, right?
Yes.
All right, very good. All right, Ms. Greenwell, I see that you signed this advice of rights form. Did you read and understand it?
Yes.
Any questions of Mr. Weinberg or the court about those rights?
No.
Anyone forcing you today to enter into this plea?
No.
On August 6th of this year, were you at the Family Dollar store on Wayne Road in the city of Westland?
Yes.
And did you commit a fraud?
Yes.
What is it you did?
Pass the fake $20 bill.
All right, court is going to accept your guilty plea. We'll take this under the Home's Youthful Trainee Act. Did you make that counterfeit bill?
No.
All right, when you said that the friends, I'm assuming one of your friends did that, correct?
No.
All right.
Just, yeah.
I believe they ran across someone they weren't really close with and convinced them. I think they're all kind of naive and convinced
Okay.
all three of them to take these $20 bills there. But they had no involvement in producing or
Okay.
manufacturing them. I
Well,
think it
no,
was-
that would be a federal
Yes.
crime, and they wouldn't be in the federal court at that point. All right, very good. All right, Ms. Greenwell, this is your opportunity to address the court before sentencing. Is there anything you'd like to say or add?
No.
You spend an overnight in jail as well?
Yes.
All right. There is a fine of $150, court costs of $170, state mandated cost of $125. Court's going to place you on 1 year probation. Oversight fees are $20 per month. You're to pay restitution of $20 to Family Dollar. You're to stay out of the Family Dollar store, all Family Dollars, not just the one here in the city of Westland. Do 3 days on the voluntary work program with fee and 2 days in jail with credit for 2 served. All right?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, you're welcome. And again, this young lady's never been in trouble, so that certainly is one reason why she qualifies for the Home Youthful Training Act. But then when I look to see that, I see she's in school or working. So those are the factors we look at when we're doing sentencing, any prior convictions. That's why the court sentenced her today. All right, Steve, I can do that. Okay. All right, calling the matter of Roger Cunningham, case number 16WE15782. This is another retail fraud case. This is number 14 in your packet. Morning.
Darren Weinberg on behalf of Mr. Cottingham.
Sir, your name for the record?
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Roger Cottingham.
All right, good morning.
Your Honor, at this time, we are requesting this matter be set for a jury trial. Mr. Cottingham gave me some names and partial addresses, so just for the record, want him to make sure you follow up with me with the actual cities where those two people reside, and I can add them to the witness list later, Your Honor.
All right. What we're first going to do is set a final settlement conference, and that will be on Friday, October 26th at 8 a.m. So that's the next date, sir, you'll need to be back. Friday, Friday, October 26th at 8 a.m. I will place this on our jury trial docket for July. I keep talking about summer, but it's not. For November the 5th. So if it's not resolved when you come back, then we'll have a jury trial on November 5. That's at 8:30. Mr. Weinberg, witness list are to be filed and exchanged by September 30. Court did sign and enter a jury trial scheduling order. We'll make sure you get that before you leave. And we'll see everybody back here October 26th.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
You're all set.
Bonds
Make
continue.
sure you call me, though.
All right. What's this one? Okay. All right, calling the matter Christopher Rudd Jr., case number 18WE16970. This is number 8 in your packet. Mr. Rudd is here today charged with reckless driving. So when you get that driver's license, that is a privilege. Remember, a driver's license is a privilege, not a right. You want to protect that so you can get to school, to work, go out and have fun with your friends, right? All right, good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am. Your Honor, Darren Weinberg, about Mr. Rudd. Your Honor, at this time, we're asking for adjournment for discovery.
All right.
I would like to get the in-car video that the West End Police have equipped in their vehicle on the lapel mics, because they do have audio if they're engaged correctly. So we're asking for the discovery with respect to this matter.
All right. Will you need 3 or 4 weeks, Mr. Weinberg?
Either one's fine, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, that's going to put us... Let's set this for October 18th at 8:30. Is that good for everyone?
Yes.
Court has signed and entered that discovery order, Mr. Weinberg, so we'll make sure you get that this morning as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Welcome.
You get a new date, then you're going to go over back to the bus. Yes, sir. Your address the same?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Calling the matter of James Lovejoy, case number 18WE15014A and B. This is here today for a pretrial as well, number 2 on your docket. All right, Mr. Lovejoy is charged with refusing to submit be fingerprinted, as well as driving on a suspended license. Good morning,
Good
Counsel.
morning, Your Honor. David Melton, appearing on behalf of Mr. Lovejoy. I'm standing in for his recently retained attorney, Muhammad Nasser.
All right, and sir, your name for the record.
James Lovejoy.
Good morning, Mr. Lovejoy. All right, well, you then are going to need a continued date. Court has signed and entered a discovery order also, Mr. Melton. We'll make sure that you get that before you leave.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. And I'm looking at the 17th of October, if that's a good date for you.
That's just fine.
All right. All right, we'll see everybody at 8:30 on October 17th. We'll give each of you a notice in writing, and then Mr. Melton, again, will make sure that you get the discovery order.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. All right, so the last 2 cases involve what we call a discovery order. As part of preparing a case, attorneys sometimes need to get some information. They may need to get documents from someone, or in this case, as in the previous case, our police officers in Westland do have in-car cameras, and they have audio mics, and so the defendant is entitled to get a copy of that, and so that's part of the reason that they did ask for an adjournment, and the court signed a discovery order because they're entitled to have that information available to them. All right, next we have a possession of marijuana charge. This is number 3 in your packet. One of the things I want to remind students, because I see this a lot as a judge, is sometimes you will be in a vehicle and when people are stopped and somebody in that vehicle possesses marijuana, sometimes they may not know whose it is, and everybody might get charged with possession of marijuana. If, let's say, it's in the front console of your car, and it's visible there, right? So everybody would get that. Or sometimes what happens is the person might own up to it, or it might be by one person. That person gets charged with possession of marijuana. However, there's also an offense called loitering where drugs are found or kept. And sometimes the passengers in that vehicle can be charged with that. So it's important to know who your friends are. If for some reason you see something that's not right in that vehicle, leave, get out. You don't need to be getting in trouble. It's not worth the consequences that you may have to, and it affects families as well as just the individual who comes to the court. All right, let's call number 3 on your packet. Lorenzo Sigmund, case number 18WE14920. This is here today for a pretrial as well. Mr. Weinberg?
Yes, Your Honor. Darren Weinberg on behalf of Mr. Sigmund.
All right, Mr. Sigmund is approaching. Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Lorenzo Sigmund.
All right.
All right, this time I believe we are requesting that discovery order in this matter.
All right. And what is it you're looking to discover in this case, Mr. Weinberg?
Your Honor, just what was said to the officer and what the officer said to my client with respect to knowledge issue, potentially with whatever drugs were allegedly found in the vehicle.
All right, we'll see everybody back here October 17th at the Westland Courthouse. So make sure, Mr. Sigmund, that you go to the Westland Courthouse for that date. And the court did sign and enter a discovery order. So we'll get that to you, Mr. Weinberg, before you leave.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, this may be our last case.
You're all set.
We have one sentencing, another sentencing. This is number 11 in your packet in the matter of Nina Pete, case number 18WE12968A.
Your Honor, for the record, Darren Weinberg, Ms. Pete, who's approaching.
Good morning, Ms. Pete.
Good morning.
Will you state your name for the record?
Nina Pete.
All right. Mr. Weinberg, did you and she review the pre-sentence report that was prepared
We did,
for
Your
this?
Honor. I believe it is factually accurate. I think it has a lot of, and there's no additions, corrections, deletions. I think there's a lot of information to help give some insight into what was going on. Ms. Pete is 21 years of age. She is treating right now through Team Wellness downriver. Her grandmother is here.
Grandmother, good morning.
Would indicate in our brief discussion that Ms. Pete is doing significantly better.
Okay.
They do have her on medication to help address some mental health issues that she was not on at the time, and I think that completely contributed to putting her in that position, some of the decisions she was making at that time. She feels much better at this time. She feels more normalized, I guess, compared to how she was at the time.
Okay.
So she is just going to work hard at that, stay in her treatment. She sought that out on her own.
Excellent. That's
she
very
knew there
good.
was need for it, and she's prepared for sentencing at this time.
All right. And Ms. Pete, if you just state your name again?
Nina Pete.
All right, so you've acted on your own. You've been proactive, which is really good. And sometimes people do have mental health issues that may contribute to what they're doing, or maybe they have another problem, sometimes drug problems, not Ms. Pete here, but that can sometimes affect what people do as well. I just will mention very quickly, because I know there'll be another group before Judge Mack and Judge McConnell, but we cooperate with the Wayne District Court. We have a sobriety court, and they will sometimes send some of their eligible people to our court for that program. And we send some of our defendants who come before us to the mental health court there. And it's an excellent program. Again, it's very intensive, but it provides so many more services than just a regular probationary period would allow. All right, did your client spend any overnights in jail?
I believe she did not,
No.
correct?
All right. All right. Ms. Pete, there is a fine of $120, state cost of $120, mandated cost by the state of $125. Court will place you on 1 year of probation. Oversight fees are $30 a month. You're to continue with your current treatment by proof to probation. Take your medications as prescribed. You're to stay out of all Kroger stores during probation. Have no contact with and do no harm to Karen Girth. Is Ms. Girth here this morning?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
All right. Obtain and maintain a job. Do 3 days on the voluntary work program with fees. All right. And we did again take this under the Homes Youthful Training Act, which is so important, Ms. Pete. That way, if you complete probation successfully, and if you've been proactive doing things, then I'm confident you will do that, then it will be dismissed and not be on your record.
Thank you.
All right, good luck. Thank you, Mr. Weinberg.
Thank you.
Do we have time for the last one? We only have 1 minute left, so we're going to do the very last case, which is number 9 in your packet, because they're just asking for a jury trial. So again, you have the right to have a trial, one of your Constitution rights, to have a trial before a jury of your peers or before the judge. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and we'll see you next year. Darren, you want to do this real quick about the changing?
Mr. Perkins?
Yes. Calling the matter, Nichols.
All rise. All rise. The 18th District Court for the State of Michigan is now in session. The Honorable Mark A. McConnell presiding.
Please be seated. Good morning. How's everybody today? All right. I'm sure you guys are all aware that this is Constitution Day. So in 1787, on this very date, our United States Constitution was signed. And hopefully you're learning about that Constitution in your classes here, and have learned that that sets forth the foundation of our government, mainly setting forth our 3 branches of government: the legislative, executive, and judicial. And obviously you get to see part of the judicial branch in action today, because that's what we are a part of. And as you know, these are real cases, so everybody that is here that appears in front of you has actually been charged with a real crime. So we're expecting all of you to act appropriately for this hour, because this is a true courtroom for the hour. And we're really giving you a great opportunity to learn and see what happens in the local district courts. We do have some folks joining us today that are representing the school board. Mr. Thomas Buckalow, who's a former John Glenn teacher who used to set up this Law Day, Constitution Day for us at John Glenn for a number of years. We also have Sherry Grove from the district, Melody Hines from the school board, and the mayor of Wayne for a short period of time, I believe, Susan Rowe. This is your last Law Day or Constitution Day as mayor, correct? Okay. Well, thank you all very much for coming out to see us perform our jobs here today. And also, I'm sure you've learned the Constitution has a process that amendments to the Constitution, there's an Article 5, that allows 2/3 of both legislatures the opportunity to make amendments to the Constitution. The first 10 amendments are what are commonly known as the Bill of Rights, that set forth individual rights that we all have, like the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, the right to freedom of religion, freedom of press, right to bear arms, and the right to a jury trial. And the last amendment, they don't happen all that often. There's only been 27 of them. The last amendment was in 1992. So it shows really that our Constitution is something that stands the test of time, and it doesn't need to be changed or amended or added to in any way, because the original framers of the Constitution did such a great job in putting it together and setting forth our great democracy. I also see today we have Deputy Mayor of the City of Westland, former Fire Chief Michael Reddy. Thank you for coming, Mr. Reddy. We are what's called a court of record, so everything that happens in our court is recorded. And to do that, I have my wonderful secretary and court recorder, Carla Francesi, who makes sure that everything is taken down and the recording equipment's working appropriately. Also have with us today Court Officer Jim Dexter, who's a retired Westland police officer. And we have Westland City Prosecutor Jackie Bona. She prosecutes all the cases, and she'll be telling you a little bit about what the arrangements are on each of the cases as we go forward today. And she was also previously participated in this event as one of the court-appointed attorneys. So she's got a good perspective on both sides of the legal side of things in criminal cases as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney. So with that, we'll call up Case number 2 on your docket, Jeremy Culbertson. Good morning. You're Jeremy Culbertson?
Yes.
All right. And Mrs. Bona?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that Mr. Culbertson will be pleading guilty to an amended charge today. He was charged with operating while intoxicated and a speeding offense. He'll be pleading guilty to the lesser charge of operating while visibly impaired, and we have offered to dismiss the civil infraction ticket.
All right. Mr. Culbertson, is that your understanding of what you're doing today?
Yes.
All right. You understand that is a misdemeanor, maximum possible punishment is 93 days in jail, $300 fine, 4 points on your master driving record, a suspension of your license with restrictions as long as you are otherwise eligible for 90 days. You understand all those consequences?
Yes.
And it's your desire to plead guilty to that lesser offense today?
Yes.
The court rules also require me to make sure that you understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving all of the rights set forth for you in this advice of rights form. Did you have an opportunity to read and understand these today?
Yes.
Any questions about the rights you're waiving?
No.
You understand if I accept your plea, you will not have a trial of any kind?
Yes.
And no one's promised you anything or threatened you in any way today to get you to plead guilty, have they?
No.
It is your own choice to plead guilty?
Yes.
And you are operating a motor vehicle at Wayne and Elm in the city of Westland on August 25th, 2018?
Yes.
Prior to operating that motor vehicle, had you consumed some alcohol?
Yes.
Do you believe because of the consumption of that alcohol, your ability to operate that vehicle was less than an ordinary careful driver?
Yes.
And you took a data master breath test at the Westland Police Department with 2 results of .15, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have any reason to believe that those results are not accurate?
No.
All right, I will accept your plea. I'm going to refer this to the probation department for a pre-sentence investigation. You'll meet with a probation officer. You'll also take an alcohol assessment test. They will then make a recommendation, put that in written form, and give you a chance to review that prior to sentencing. And then we will schedule sentencing for, where are we? Monday, October 29th at 8:30 in the morning. That date and time okay for you?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll give you a notice of that. We'll take you back to the court, and the probation department will meet with you, get you started on that pre-sentence investigation process. Obviously, your bond condition of not using or possessing any illegal drugs, drug paraphernalia, or alcohol continues. And we'll get you back to court, and they'll get you started on that, okay? And we'll see you back here at the end of October.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. All right, People versus DeAndre Hunt, case number 4 on your docket. Good morning, you are DeAndre Hunt?
Yes.
All right, Mrs. Bona?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that Mr. Hunt today will be pleading guilty to an amended charge of violating the motor vehicle code, and in return, we move to dismiss the other charges.
All right, and Mr. Hunt, is that your understanding of what you're doing today?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, before I can accept your plea, I have to be certain you understand by pleading guilty you're waiving all the rights set forth for you in an advice of rights form. Did you have an opportunity to read and understand these today?
Yes.
Any questions about the rights you're waiving?
No.
You understand if I accept your plea, you will not have a trial of any kind?
Yes.
And no one's promised you anything or threatened you in any way today to get you to plead guilty, have they?
No.
It's your own choice to plead guilty?
Yes.
On June 20th, 2018 at Van Born and Middlebelt here in the city of Westland, did you violate the Michigan Vehicle Code?
Yes.
All right. I will accept your plea. Anything you want to tell me about yourself before I impose sentence?
No, it's just that I understand what situation I put myself in, and I won't make it again.
All right. You need some time to pay?
What will be the price of it?
It's about $400.
Yeah, I don't have it all right now.
How much time do you need?
Kind of just get 2 weeks.
Sure. All right, there's a $100 fine, $175 in court costs, $125 in mandatory state costs. You said you need a couple weeks. Just make sure you take care of it by October 19th, so I'm giving you 2 more weeks than that. If you don't have the money by that date, still come in and see us so we don't issue a warrant for you, add on additional charges, and suspend your license as a result.
Okay.
So just make sure you come in by then. Like I said, even if you don't have money, we can work something out with you at that time. But if you don't come in, we can't.
Okay.
Okay? Any questions?
None at all.
Okay, all right, we'll get you back to court and then get you on with your day, okay?
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, you probably noticed in each of those cases, I go over those rights with them. The court rules require that to get a voluntary plea, an understanding plea. And so everybody that pleads guilty needs to understand that they're giving up all of those rights that the Constitution provides to them. Most notably, the right to representation by an attorney and the right to a trial. And I have to make sure that they understand that they're waiving all those rights and they've had an opportunity to read that advice of rights form and make sure they don't have any questions. So a lot of what I do a lot of times is repetitive, and that's certainly one of the things that's very repetitive in my job. All right, case number 8, Howard Robinson. Good morning, you're Howard Robinson?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Mrs. Bona?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that Mr. Robinson will be pleading guilty to an amended charge of operating while visibly impaired, and the original charge would be dismissed upon acceptance of that plea.
All right, and Mr. Robinson, that's your understanding of what you're doing today?
Yes, I do.
You understand that as a misdemeanor, maximum possible punishment, 93 days in jail, $300 fine, 4 points, suspension of your license with restrictions for 90 days if you're otherwise eligible. You understand those consequences?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's your desire to plead guilty to that lesser offense?
Yes.
All right, I also have to make sure you understand by pleading guilty, you're waiving all the rights set forth for you in this advice of rights form. Did you have an opportunity to read and understand these?
Yes, sir.
Any questions about the rights you're waiving?
No, sir.
You understand if I accept your plea, you will not have a trial of any kind?
Yes.
And no one has promised you anything or threatened you in any way today to get you to plead guilty, have they?
No, sir.
It's your own choice to plead guilty?
Yes, sir.
On August 30th, 2018, reoperating a motor vehicle at Michigan and Merriman here in the city of Westland?
Yes, sir.
And prior to operating that motor vehicle, had you consumed some alcohol?
Yes, sir.
Do you believe because of the consumption of that alcohol, your ability to operate that vehicle was less than an ordinary careful driver?
Yes, sir.
And you took a data master breath test at the Westland Police Department with results of .12 and .13, is that correct?
Correct, sir.
And the legal limit you know is .08, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, any reason to dispute the accuracy of that test result?
No, sir.
All right, I will accept your plea, refer you to probation for a pre-sentence investigation, have you come back for sentencing on October 29th, that's a Monday at 8:30, that date and time okay for you?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Yep. All right, and we'll get you back over to court. They'll start you on the pre-sentence investigation process. Any questions?
No, sir. Thank you, Your
Okay.
Honor.
All right, thanks. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, so we've had two cases that were classified as drunk driving cases. The legal names for those are operating while intoxicated. That's the more serious offense. These two individuals, because they had nothing else on their record, pled guilty to the less offensive operating while visibly impaired, but it's still classified as a drunk driving. It's still a very serious offense. Ordinarily what will happen on a sentencing for a case like that, individuals have to pay fines and costs around $1,500, which include probation costs. Our probation department will watch over them for the next year, have them go to some alcohol education classes, the MAD Victim Impact Panel, where victims of drunk drivers speak about how it's impacted their lives. Also do days of community service on our work program in our community, and to have them as a way that they can give back to our community. And as I indicated, they are serious offenses. That's why we watch over those individuals for a long period of time and make sure they learn from it and don't endanger themselves or the public again. All right, case number 5, Daryl Jasmine. Good morning. You are Daryl Jasmine?
That's correct.
Okay. Mrs. Bona?
Thank you, Your Honor. After review of the police report and some of the documentation that Mr. Jasmine did provide to our office, we are moving to dismiss the 3 of these matters.
All right. And I'm sure, Mr. Jasmine, you have no objection to that?
No, sir.
Okay. And let's see. He was charged with consuming alcohol in public, possession of marijuana, and narcotic paraphernalia. What were the reasons for the dismissal of those serious charges?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Jasmine provided our office a copy of a valid medical marijuana card that he has with him today. He also provided a copy of that in advance to our office. In addition, the ordinance violation that he was written under provides no drinking any type of alcoholic liquor in the park, and that's not what he was drinking on that date.
Okay. All right. On the prosecutor's motion, Mr. Jasmine, the cases are dismissed and you're free to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Case number 11, Miles Talmadge. You are Miles Talmadge?
Yes.
Good morning. Mrs. Bona?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that this defendant will be pleading guilty to the offense to be sentenced under Section 7411.
All right. And Mr. Talmadge, is that your understanding of what you're doing today?
Yes.
You understand that the Controlled Substance Act's provision of 7411 would give you the opportunity to keep this charge off of your public criminal history as a conviction?
Yes.
And that's what you'd like to do today?
Yes.
All right. Before I can accept your plea, I have to be certain you understand by pleading guilty or waiving all the rights set forth for you in this advice of rights form. Did you have an opportunity to read and understand these?
Yes.
Any questions about the rights you're waiving?
No.
You understand if I accept your plea, you will not have a trial of any kind?
Yes.
And no one has promised you anything or threatened you in any way today to get you to plead guilty?
No.
It's your own choice to plead guilty?
Yeah.
On July 30th, 2018, were you at Wayne and Bayview in the city of Westland?
Yes.
And while you were at that location, were you in possession of marijuana?
Yes.
And you do not have a medical marijuana card, do you?
No.
Okay. All right. I will accept your plea. What are you doing messing around with marijuana?
Well, my girlfriend has a medical marijuana card, so I've been smoking for the past 3 to 4 months.
Okay. And obviously, you know you can't do that, correct?
Yes.
And understand, obviously, part of probation would be that you can't do that, and that would be a way for, if you were to violate your probation, then this could go on your public criminal history. Also suspend your driver's license for 180 days with no driving for the first 30 days if the conviction does show up on your record. You understand that as well?
Yes.
Okay. And you want to try and do the probation and keep it off your record?
Yes.
All right. Anything that you'd like to tell me about yourself before I impose sentence?
No.
All right. Are you working anywhere?
Yes.
Okay. And you graduate from high school?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What I'll do, put you on 1 year of probation. Probation costs are $240. Conditions of your probation: not use or possess any illegal drugs, drug paraphernalia. You'll be randomly tested to make sure you're not using anything you're not supposed to. Do 5 days on our voluntary work program with fee. Pay a $200 fine, $120 in court cost, $125 in mandatory state cost. Stay out of trouble, meet all of these conditions, and this will not show up on your public criminal history as a conviction. And we'll get you back to probation now. They'll give you written instruction on everything I told you, let you know what was going to be expected of you as you go through probation. All right. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Good luck.
Yes, sir.
So there's a few ways that we can allow people to keep these misdemeanor convictions from showing up on their record. And for marijuana charges like the case that we just heard, it's called Section 7411 of the Controlled Substance Act that allows them that opportunity. And marijuana is a very interesting issue. I've seen, especially for young people, I've seen a lot of younger kids that have used it for a long period of time, and the amount of damage that it does to their brains is unbelievable. kids are 19, 20 years old that have been smoking for 3, 4, 5 years. They're unable to put full sentences together. They can't hold jobs. They drop out of school. There's very, very little that they're going to do to help anybody out in their life, including themselves going forward, because they made the bad decision of using drugs at a young age. The human brain isn't formed until at least 25 years of age, and during that developmental period, marijuana has a very bad effect on it. So obviously stay away from marijuana, and you're going to be a lot better off. Case number 9, Zentia Robinson. Good morning. That's you, ma'am?
Good morning. Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that Ms. Robinson will also be pleading guilty to this offense to be sentenced under Section 7411.
All right. Is that correct, Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
All right. And before I can accept your plea, I have to be certain you understand by pleading guilty you're waiving all the rights set forth for you in this advice of rights form. Did you have an opportunity to read and understand these today?
Yes, I did.
Any questions about the rights you're waiving?
No.
You understand if I accept your plea, you will not have a trial of any kind?
Yes.
And no one's promised you anything or threatened you in any way today to get you to plead guilty, have they?
No.
It's your own choice to plead guilty?
Yes.
And you were in possession of marijuana at Wayne and Bayview here in the city of Westland on July 30th, 2018?
Yes.
You did not have a medical marijuana card at that time, did you?
No.
Okay. Do you have one now?
Yes. So it's still in process, but
Okay.
yes, I do have my papers.
But has it been submitted to the state?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll accept your plea. Anything you want to tell me about yourself before I impose sentence?
No.
Are you working?
Yes.
And graduate from high school?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right, well, I'll put you on probation for 1 year, give you a chance to keep it off your record. Probation costs are $240. Conditions of your probation: not use or possess any illegal drugs, drug paraphernalia, be randomly tested to make sure you're not using anything you're not supposed to, do 5 days on our voluntary work program with fee, pay a $200 fine, $120 in court costs, $125 in mandatory state costs. If you do get your medical marijuana card, you still have to ask for permission to use it. And for that card to be valid, you obviously have to have a debilitating medical condition, and you have to have a bona fide doctor-patient relationship, which means that you didn't go to the doctor one time and you have no expectation of seeing that doctor again, that filled out the physician certification. So as long as you do those things, I would allow you to do it, but most of the time people don't have the bona fide doctor-patient relationship. So make sure that this is a doctor you've been treating with for a while, that you have an expectation of continued treatment, that's filling out that form, and not just somebody at one of the marijuana clinics that just you pay $150 to and they fill out the paperwork. So that's what the statute requires, and that's what I require for you to be allowed to use it. And obviously you still have to ask for permission first. Okay, any questions?
No.
All right, we'll get you back to court and I'll give you written instruction on everything I told you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. All right, case number 3, Matthew Dawson. Good morning, you are Matthew Dawson?
Yes, sir.
For the record, Darren Lambert, on behalf of Mr. Dawson. It's my understanding Mr. Dawson has elected to represent himself and spoke with the prosecutor on her own, and has indicated when I talked to him afterwards, he still wanted to proceed on his own without counsel.
Okay, is that correct, Mr. Dawson?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. All right, Mrs. Bona?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that Mr. Dawson will be pleading guilty to an amended charge of a violation of the Motor Vehicle Code, also pleading guilty to the possession of narcotic paraphernalia charge to be sentenced under Section 771.1.
All right, and that's your understanding of what you're doing today, Mr. Dawson?
Yes, sir.
You're going to get a chance to keep that paraphernalia charge off your record? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And before I can accept your plea, I have to be certain you understand by pleading guilty, you're waiving all the rights set forth for you in this advice of rights form. Did you have an opportunity to read and understand these today?
Yes, I did.
Any questions about the rights you're waiving?
No, Your Honor.
You understand if I accept your plea, you will not have a trial of any kind?
Yes.
And no one has promised you anything or threatened you in any way today to get you to plead guilty, have they?
No, they have not.
It's your own choice to plead guilty?
Yes, sir, it is.
On August 23rd, 2018, at Van Born and Farnham here in the city of Westland, did you violate the Michigan Vehicle Code?
I did, yes.
And you were in possession of a pipe used for smoking cocaine?
Correct.
I will accept your plea. So you valid license now?
No, not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Anything you want to tell me about yourself before I impose sentence?
Yeah, I'm a Navy veteran. I take care of my mother who has stage 3B cancer, and I do work 7 days a week. So I'm a busy person. So I would appreciate leniency if the court would allow it.
Sure. What's going on with the cocaine pipe?
Like I said, my mother, she's a cancer patient, and I just recently was medically retired from the military. And I had a lot of things going on, depression and things like that. You know?
Okay. Are you seeing anybody?
I do. I see the VA clinic. Yes.
Okay. In Ann Arbor?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Hopefully you're starting to feel better?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to give you a chance to keep this off your record. Obviously, it's a very serious offense, so I want to make sure we're watching over you, providing you some guidance for the next year. So I'll put you on probation for 1 year. Probation costs are $240. Conditions of your probation: don't do any driving until you have a valid license, not use or possess any illegal drugs, drug paraphernalia, be randomly tested to make sure you're not using anything you're not supposed to. Continue with your current treatment and provide proof of that to probation. Follow any recommendations from your doctor or your therapist. Do 5 days on our voluntary work program with fee. You got arrested and were held overnight. You got out the next day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, 2 days jail, 2 days credit for the time that you did serve. There's a $100 fine, $220 in court costs, $125 in mandatory state costs. On the paraphernalia charge, I won't assess any fines and costs. Just have you comply with those conditions as a way for you to keep it off your public criminal history as a conviction.
Thank you, sir.
All right, you're welcome, and we'll give you a payment plan and instructions on everything I just told you back at the court. Any questions?
No, Your Honor.
No? Okay, all right, good luck.
Thanks.
Case number 10, Georgie Solnofsky.
Good morning, Your Honor. For the record, Darren Weinberg of Beth Rusmaki.
Quite down. Good morning. That's you, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, at this time, I've had an opportunity to review the police report and some other documentation. I think I would ask for an adjournment so I can do some further investigation with respect to the allegations in this case, Your Honor.
Okay. All right.
Also, for the record, I did have the opportunity to speak to the complainant victim who was present today. She would like to be placed on call for the next court date.
Okay.
She did indicate her phone number for the court so that we can have it for the next hearing date. Thank you.
We'd have no
Thank you.
objection that, Your Honor, she did indicate to the prosecutor that she would be able to identify the defendant as the person in the vehicle, so we do not need her here for the next date.
Okay. How much time do you need, Mr. Weinberg?
2 or 3 weeks, Your Honor.
Let's do October 11th at 8:15. That's a Thursday. Mr. Solnofsky, is that date and time okay for you? Okay. All right, we'll give you a notice of that in just a minute, and then we'll see you back here October 11th, okay?
Okay.
All right, that case is a situation where the defense attorney wants to take a look at some additional documentation, like police reports or videos that might be in evidence, to have a better understanding of the case that the prosecutor has, and then make a decision on whether to set it for a trial or a plea or some type of an evidentiary hearing. And I didn't introduce Mr. Weinberg. He is our court-appointed attorney. He represents individuals that have been charged with crimes where we may impose incarceration upon them. So he is appointed to represent them, make sure their interests are protected. All right, Haley Arndt, case number 1.
And again, Darren Weinberg on behalf of Ms. Arndt, who is approaching.
Good morning. You are Haley Arndt?
Yes.
All right, Mrs. Bona, what's the situation?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that Ms. Arndt will be pleading guilty to this offense today, and she'll be sentenced under Section 7411.
And I did explain this to Ms. Arndt. She understands the benefits of the plea as well as her waiving any trial rights, and she's prepared at this time to do so.
All right, and that's your understanding of what you want to do today, Ms. Arndt?
Yes.
Okay, before I can accept your plea, I have to be certain you understand by pleading guilty, you're waiving all the rights set forth for you in this advice of rights form. Did you have an opportunity to read and understand these today?
Yes.
Any questions about the rights you're waiving?
No, Your Honor.
You understand if I accept your plea, you will not have a trial of any kind?
Yes.
And no one has promised you anything or threatened you in any way today to get you to plead guilty, have they?
No.
It's your own choice to plead guilty?
Yes.
On August 18th, 2018, at Michigan Avenue and Henry Ruff in Westland, were you in possession of marijuana?
Yes.
You do not have a medical marijuana card, do you?
No.
I will accept your plea. Mr. Weinberg, satisfied with the factual basis?
I am, Your Honor.
Anything you want to tell me about your client before I impose sentence?
Your Honor, Ms. Arndt is 19 years of age. She is not on probation or parole, has no prior police contacts to my knowledge. Is that correct?
Correct.
She is employed. She works for a local pizza place, as well as she's looking for a second job. She did graduate high school.
Correct.
And at this time, Your Honor, she understands that she's going to be required to do certain things, and if she doesn't do so, there'll be consequences. But I believe she is going to abide by the conditions and be successful and earn a dismissal at the end of the term of probation.
All right, Ms. Arndt, anything you want to tell me about yourself before I impose sentence?
I do plan on going to school in the next year or two. I'm just currently taking care of my mother and my little sister.
Okay. What are you doing messing around with marijuana?
I have clinical depression and anxiety. I just haven't gone to go get my medical marijuana card yet. It was also the day before my birthday. I know that's not an excuse. It was just for my own personal use.
I explained to her that before she was aware of it, before she would use, she would have to get permission from the court if she does get a card successfully through the state of Michigan.
All right, and have you been treating with anybody for those issues that you
Yes, I do
indicate?
have a therapist. I just haven't gone to go get the medical marijuana card yet.
Okay, and what does your therapist say about marijuana?
My therapist is not one of the therapists that can prescribe the medical marijuana card, so I'd have to actually go talk to my physician.
Right, what is, I mean, if you're treating with a therapist for these issues, have you talked to the therapist about whether marijuana would be a good idea or not?
Yes, I was on a different prescription drug
Sure.
for it before, but it did not help. It didn't have the right effects on me.
Okay.
So she said that this was probably a better idea than using the prescription drug.
It was discussed with your therapist, is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
And you do, the physician has prescribed you medication for your condition
Yes.
previously? Okay, and that physician may be of the opinion that marijuana might help you?
Yes.
Okay, well, just make sure, like it was indicated earlier, you ask for permission first to make sure you have a bona fide doctor-patient relationship with the physician that signs the certification, okay? We will give you a chance to keep this off your record, put you on probation for 1 year. Probation costs are $240. Conditions of your probation: not use or possess any illegal drugs, drug paraphernalia, be randomly tested to make sure you're not using anything you're not supposed to. Continue with your current treatment with proof to probation. Do 5 days on our voluntary work program with fee, $200 fine, $220 in court costs, $125 in mandatory state costs. As long as you stay out of trouble, meet these conditions, this would not show up on your public criminal history as a conviction.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any questions?
No.
No? All right, we'll get you back to court and give you written instruction on everything I told you, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. And you probably noticed that a couple times I've asked, and then Mr. Weinberg just indicated that she graduated from high school. And the reason I asked that is that, education is an extremely important thing. And if you don't graduate from high school or get a GED or a high school diploma equivalent, it's very hard to keep and maintain good employment, which means it's going to be hard for you to have good benefits. And it makes it difficult at times to have as good a life as you could have if you were to get an education. So obviously, I've got a high school degree, a college degree, and a law degree. And I think, the more education you can get, the longer you can stay in school, the better off your future is going to be. You become, more involved in your community and just a greater resource to everybody with a higher level of education. So if people don't have those things, that's one of the conditions that I'd place on them for probation, is to either get a GED, finish high school, or get a high school diploma or something equivalent to that, so that they can maintain better employment in the future and have a better life. So stay in school as long as you can. All right, case number 7, Ronald Moten.
Weinberg, we have Mr. Moten.
You are Ronald Moten?
Yes.
Mrs. Bona?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that Mr. Moulton will be pleading responsible to an amended charge of failing to use due care and caution, and we would dismiss the original charge.
Yeah, I did discuss this with Mr. Moulton. He's prepared at this time to plead responsible to the two-point civil infraction for failed to use due care and caution.
All right, so Mr. Moulton, on August the 1st, 2018, you're operating a motor vehicle at Annapolis and Irene in Westland, and you failed to use due care and caution at that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
It was raining pretty heavy that day?
Yes.
Okay, all right, I will accept your plea. We'll take you back to court to take care of that fine, okay?
You would need probably a week, Your Honor, if possible, right? 1 week, you said?
Me, no, I can pay it today.
Okay, pay it today?
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, we'll take you back there to take care of that, okay?
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right. Lashia Watkins, case number 12.
For the record, Aaron Weinberg, on behalf of Ms. Watkins.
Good morning, that is you, ma'am?
Good morning, yes, sir.
All right, Mrs. Bona?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that Mr. Weinberg is requesting some time for further discovery and is asking for a continued pretrial in this matter.
Yes, Your Honor, she had a card in 2017. She's applied for the card. I want to get all her documentation together and present it to the prosecutor regarding the medical marijuana defense. And we're asking for an adjournment probably for 30 days if possible, because she needs this. She's been waiting for some paperwork from Lara, from the state licensing board.
All right, we'll schedule it for October 23rd. That's a Tuesday at 9 a.m. That date and time okay for you, Ms. Watkins?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, we'll give you notice of that, and then we'll see you back here next month, okay?
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Your Honor.
Not here, I guess, but
One
back at the
second.
court.
One second.
Okay.
October 23rd at the courthouse. Okay? So bring back all this paper. Okay?
All right, People versus Jerry Kirby, case number 6.
And again, Darren Weinberg and Mr. Kirby.
That's you, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mrs. Bona?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that Mr. Kirby will be pleading responsible to an impeding traffic ticket. We've moved to dismiss the possession of marijuana charge. It appears he showed his valid medical marijuana card on today's date. He also showed a valid insurance certificate on today's date, so that offense would be dismissed as well.
And that's correct. Mr. Kirby could not locate the card at the time. I believe ultimately it was found in the car, but he didn't have it on him at the time. He couldn't produce it. He does have valid insurance and had it at the time of the incident and did bring in documentation of both today. He's prepared at this time to plead responsible to the impeding traffic.
All right, so Mr. Kirby, you impeded traffic at Joy and Inkster in Westland on August 18th, 2018, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and pursuant to the fine schedule, that's $180. We'll take you back to the court. You do have bond money. Sign over 180 of it, and then they'll return the balance to you. You're on the West Outer Drive address now?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll get that to you within the next week or so, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome. All right, so we've finished up with the cases that we're going to handle this morning. So if anybody has any questions, we have a microphone, as in years past. Follow Mr. Mason's instructions on how to do that. All right, come on. Quiet down a little bit so your fellow student can ask.
Okay, first student here is Lionel. He's going to ask you a question.
All right. How you doing, Lionel?
It's Lionel, not Lionel.
Okay. I said Lionel.
Okay. So, I'm trying to figure out why this person has like almost about 10 grams of marijuana. Like, come on now. No, that's like too much.
Too much what?
I think he's maybe asking about medical marijuana and how much a person is legally able to possess.
The legal amount that you can possess, you can't have it in public. You're not supposed to use it in public. You can't have it in public. You can have up to 12 plants at your house. If you're a caregiver, you can have up to 70 plants because you can provide marijuana for up to 5 people. And then depending on what happens next year, there could be some changes to that. That area of the law is changing very rapidly with cases and amendments to statutes. Any other questions?
This is Arthur, and he's going to ask you a question about rights.
All right. How you doing, Arthur?
Good. I was wondering because every time someone came up, you said you know all the rights. I was wondering if you can tell us all the rights.
Well, there's a right to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, a right to representation by an attorney, a right to remain in the courtroom at the time of the trial, hear everything that's going on, ask questions of any of the witnesses that testify, the right to testify yourself as a defendant or remain silent, not have that silence used against you. Those are the rights that they're waiving, and they're provided under the Constitution.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
My name is Ayana.
Hi,
and
Ayana.
I was wondering how many different court places do they go, or what they do before they go to the judge?
Well, it depends on what happens. A lot of times, I think many of the people that were here today, when they got charged with the crime, they were given a ticket and told to come to court within 14 days. Some of them were arrested and taken to the police department and either came to court or to post a bond, or were required to post a bond before they came to court to ensure their appearance at court. A lot of times, depending on the type of case, we'll put conditions on people as a part of their bond, not to use alcohol, not to use drugs, not to do any driving, not to have contact with certain people, to make sure that those people and the public are protected. Okay, nice question.
Okay, got time for a couple more. Come on up.
Hi, my name is May.
Hi, May.
What happens if someone doesn't plead guilty?
If somebody doesn't plead guilty, well, they have a right to plead not guilty, and at that point in time, the prosecution would have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt at a trial in front of a judge or on a trial in front of a jury that they are guilty of the crimes that they're charged with.
I'm Honeys Jones.
Hello.
I wanted to know if so say if they got marijuana with them, if they don't got their high school diploma, do they go to jail or do they go to probation?
Well, if it's a first offense, they would be given probation first, and one of the conditions would be obviously not to use any drugs, random testing for that, counseling or treatment if they're not in treatment, and to get a high school diploma or GED to get better employment in the future.
My name is Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
So if someone has like been charged for the possession of marijuana before on this court date, what would happen?
If they had a prior conviction for it,
Yeah.
they would probably not. They wouldn't be given the opportunity to keep it off their record. If they were to plead guilty to it, they'd be on probably a reporting probation where they'd have to come in more regularly to meet with probation. They'd probably be required to attend Narcotics Anonymous classes, as well as outpatient treatment with a therapist or a psychiatrist or a doctor to help them stay away from the marijuana. And it would probably be required to test more frequently than somebody who's a first-time offender. All right, great question.
Thank you.
Okay, got time for one more question. Anybody else?
Hi.
What's your name?
My name is Logan, and
Logan.
I was wondering, how do you know if they lie or not?
How do you know if they lie or not? Well, there's a lot of different, there's a lot of different ways that, and that's one of the hard parts of my job is determining whether somebody's telling the truth or not. And there's ways that you can do that by the mannerism in which they're speaking at times or testifying at the time of a trial. A lot of times, and this is probably the easiest way, is a lot of times stories don't match up, and you have to go with what the reasonable and likely story is. And then obviously someone who's not telling that type of a story is somebody who's not being truthful. And usually it happens with cross-examination at the time of a trial where the opposing attorney will ask questions of the person and make that appear that they're not being truthful. Good question.
Okay, this is Monica, and she has a question for you.
Okay, hi Monica.
Hello. If someone pleads guilty, can you still dismiss the case?
No, we can't dismiss it because they're pleading guilty, admitting responsibility for it, and then we would sentence them according to the law. All right, well, thank you everybody very much for coming out again. Hope you learned a lot. But if you didn't hear me, stay away from drugs, stay in school as long as you can. All right, thanks again.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I am Judge Laura Mack. I'm at the 29th District Court in the city of Wayne. It is my pleasure and privilege to be able to talk to you today about Constitution Day. And we are going to conduct an actual court session in a few moments. And so that means that you need to be quiet because everything that we do is on the record. And we have to have a good record in case we ever have to go back and listen to the record. So you do all have to behave as if you were in a courtroom. This is actually a courtroom for the next almost hour or so. We are here because of the Constitution. We have the wonderful document that governs everything about the way our government works, which is the United States Constitution. And it was signed exactly 231 years ago today. It was signed on September 17th, 1787. And of course, if you can think back to that time, there were no cars, there was no electricity, people went around in horses, there was no instant communication, there were no computers. It was a really very different time. And the people that created our Constitution created a document that has survived all those years. It is still the document that we live by and that we work by and that governs how we live our lives in this free society. It was an experiment back then. This was not a normal kind of country that we developed. This was unusual for the time. Usual for the time were kings, autocrats. To have a government that was governed by the people and for the people, created by the people, was a revolutionary idea in the world. And we are really privileged to live in a country that has our U.S. Constitution as its governing document. So I just want to say a few things that I think make the Constitution worth celebrating. The first three words of the preamble to the Constitution say, "We the people." We the people. It's not other people that are doing this. It's not a king dictating how people are going to live or what the laws are. This is we the people. These are really the most important words in the Constitution. And why did the framers put those words into our Constitution? And it wasn't an accident that they said that. They wrote and rewrote every word in that Constitution. They argued about it, they fought, and they finally arrived at the document that we have today, which has survived all these years. A good government gets its power to make law from the people and not from the will of a king or a tyrant. And that law applies equally to all. It is what we call the rule of law. Before the American Revolution, as subjects of the British king, Americans only had the rights that the king would allow them to have. Without the rule of law, many were jailed, lost their property, and even their lives without a trial. The founders of our country realized that freedom could only be protected if our country had a limited government and a rule of law that applied equally to everyone, not just to the landowners or the kings or the earls or the dukes. The framers also wanted to form a united nation that worked together rather than a group of separate states. For the Constitution to be effective, it had to be accepted by we, the people. Ordinary Americans debated what they liked and disliked about the Constitution before elected delegates voted to ratify and accept it. Only after 9 of the 13 states had ratified the Constitution did it become the supreme law of the land. The Constitution made rules not only for how the federal government should work, but also saved certain rights and responsibilities for the states, the individual states like Michigan. When Michigan became a state in 1837, the state constitution begins with we, the people, like the federal Constitution. So what do the US and Michigan constitutions mean to you and your classmates? They give the US and Michigan governments the power to make, enforce, and interpret laws. Not just for adults, but for everyone. Attending school, speaking and writing freely, going on Facebook and posting what you like to post, and the right of freedom of religion are among the liberties or freedoms that we all enjoy. The Constitution is very important to the courts, which are part of the judicial branch of government. Do you all know that there are 3 branches of government? Okay, we are the judicial branch of government. We are a separate but equal branch of the government of the United States and the state of Michigan. In particular, the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, provide many rules and protections for persons who are accused of committing a crime. There is a particular amendment to the Constitution that we are going to be involved with each of the cases that we hear today. And I want you to be thinking about which amendment it is that involves every single one of these cases. I'll give you a hint. It's one of the first 10 amendments, but it involves the right of a police officer to stop someone when they suspect illegal activity. That's part of the rights that we have, that we are protected from certain kinds of searches and seizures under the Constitution. So every one of our cases has to do with a stop by a police officer, which implicates this amendment to our Constitution. So the Constitution isn't just some abstract document. It's a living, breathing document that courts interpret and deal with every day. So it is vital, I think, that our citizens understand the Constitution, what a wonderful document we have, and realize that our democracy is worth fighting for. We have a unique and wonderful form of government, but we risk it going away if people don't vote, if people don't exercise their rights. We have very low turnout, voter turnout in this country, and that's really a shame. So I'm asking all of you to swear to me that when you get to be old enough to vote, that you will exercise your citizens' right to vote. I don't care how you vote, but be sure to vote. Participate in our democracy. It's the only way that we can keep tyranny at bay and maintain our democracy for future generations. Okay, for the next 45 minutes, Franklin Middle School is the 29th District Court. The proceedings you are going to see today are real. The people are here voluntarily because they want you to learn from their experience. A criminal case begins with a person being arrested for committing a crime. After you are arrested, you are taken to the police department. where your picture and fingerprints are taken. You are then taken to the county jail until you can be arraigned by a judge. In that case, that would be me if it happens in the city of Wayne. When somebody appears before me under those circumstances, I do what's called an arraignment. I tell them the charge that has been made against them, what the maximum penalty is for that charge, and then I do something called setting a bond. I decide whether that person should go free until their court date, or they need to post money or some other kind of consideration in order for them to be released from jail. Sometimes we have people who are they are incapacitated in some way. They might be intoxicated. I feel hesitant about letting those people go into society without some conditions. So sometimes I make them do drug testing, alcohol testing, blowing into a device to make sure they're not drinking as a condition of their release. That is at the arraignment. Then they appear for the next stage in the criminal case called a pretrial. At the pretrial, they meet with the prosecutor and they try to work out what's called a plea agreement. Most cases do not go to trial. Most cases are resolved at the plea agreement stage, at the pretrial stage. That's where the prosecutor talks to the people, says, well, you've got a good driving record, you don't have many criminal cases. We're willing to drop down the original charge to this if you plead to this lesser charge. It avoids having to go to trial. The person agrees to it, we put it on the record, and then they are sentenced. The vast majority of criminal cases are settled this way, and that is basically what you're going to see today. People that have been arraigned and have taken a plea are being sentenced, and I think in one case there will be talk of a plea negotiation as well. You are not going to see a trial. Unfortunately, we don't have time for that. It's a lengthier process where witnesses are called. Maybe someday we will be able to do that for everyone, but we are not going to see a trial today. Assisting me today are Lamont Patton. He is our court officer. He keeps order in the court. So if you misbehave, he will be the one that will come and tell you to stop misbehaving, or you'll have to leave the courtroom. He also carries a gun and a taser. So he's a very important person. And Carla is our court reporter today. She is the one, and you need to be quiet again because we are making a record. She is the one who's recording everything that occurs here today as part of the official court record. We also have our prosecutor, Mike Bostic, and he will talk to you a little bit about the prosecutor's role in a criminal case when we get to that stage. We also have Mr. Charles Close. He is our defense attorney. He is representing the defendants who are coming before you today. Our criminal system is an adversarial system. We have on one side, the plaintiff is the people. They are the people of the state of Michigan or the city of Wayne charging the defendant with a crime. So the defendant has the right to have a lawyer and the people have a lawyer. And so the two, when there's a trial, the two basically battle it out in the courtroom. They don't fight with fists, they fight with words, and it's all legal. So I also want to say hello and to thank the vice principal, Dave Mason, and the principal, who I met briefly, Mr. Rosser. I thank him for allowing me to come here today, and to Mr. Mason, who has been here many years and has allowed us to come year after year. Also, we have the mayor of the city of Wayne here today, Susan Rowe, and we have Melanie Hines and Tom Buckaloo from the Wayne Westland School District. So thank you very much for being part of our Constitution Day celebration. I also want to thank my court administrator, Linda Gable. She's floating around here somewhere with files, but there are many people who make this work, and they're all kind of behind the scenes, but I am grateful to all of them for their help in this. So without further ado, we will call the court to order.
Please rise. The 29th District Court for the State of Michigan is now in session. The Honorable Judge Laura R. Malfazzotti.
Be seated. Okay, you should have your scripts. You should have your little, it's a summary of the case, basically, of the facts and circumstances of each case. I will go ahead and call the first case, case number 1. Scotty Bigley, case number 18-WC02360.
for the people of the city of Wayne.
Good morning, Your Honor. Charles Close on behalf of Mr. Bigley.
Your Honor, this matter is a operating while intoxicated offense as well as an improper plate. The arrest occurred on August 15th of this year. At that date and time, Mr. Bigley was transported to the hospital and a blood draw was taken. So therefore, those results are being examined at the state police lab, and those reports have not been furnished to the city yet. Therefore, we would ask that the court consider adjourning this matter until such a time as we can receive those blood test results and proceed with a meaningful pretrial.
Okay.
Thank you. Charles Close on behalf of Mr. Bigley. Your Honor, the recitation by the prosecutor is in fact accurate. We are unable to resolve this matter today. We are requesting an adjournment until such time that the proper proofs come back from the state of Michigan, and we'll proceed at that time, Judge.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that. To the students, it's the prosecutor's burden to prove the charge beyond a reasonable doubt. If it has to do with substances that might be in someone's system, it's difficult to prove without results from a blood test or a breath test. So in this case, there was blood taken at the hospital. So sometimes it takes a while to get those results back. So we will adjourn this. I'm not sure the next date you will be here. October 18th?
It's the 11th or the 18th, Judge.
Okay.
Sure.
Whatever works for the court, and Mr. Close, we're fine with, Your Honor.
Okay. I'll go ahead and schedule it for the 18th. Or if it's a different date, the date when we have our court-appointed attorney. I will go ahead and continue the bond. I just want to go ahead and redo the arraignment, which is the part where he was told the charge. So at the arraignment, this is what would occur. I would tell Mr. Bigley that he did receive a ticket on August 15th, 2018, charging him with operating a vehicle while intoxicated and driving with an improper plate. Operating a vehicle while intoxicated is a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 93 days in jail and or a fine of up to $500. Very substantial costs, 6 points on a master driving record, suspension of a driver's license for 6 months with a restricted license available after 30 days. Improper plate is also a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 90 days in jail and or a fine of up to $100 plus costs. I did enter a plea of not guilty on both charges. We will continue that not guilty plea, and we will continue the bond, which is a personal bond, meaning he didn't have to pay any money, but he is to have no alcohol, no illegal drugs. He's to test at JAMS 3 times a month for alcohol and drugs, ETG for alcohol at his own expense. Have you been testing at JAMS?
Yes.
You have, okay. That is to continue. So all those conditions will continue, and we will see you in October.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Hey, Brian Finley, case number 18WC01888.
Good morning, Your Honor. For the record, Charles Close on behalf of Mr. Brian Finley. Your Honor, today is the day and time set for sentencing in this matter. I've had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Finley. We have reviewed the pre-sentence report prepared by the probation department. We find it accurate, Judge. Mr. Finley doesn't have any changes or corrections or any additions to the pre-sentence report, Judge, and we're ready to be sentenced.
Okay, Mr. Finley.
Good morning.
Good morning. The law does give you the opportunity to make a statement at this time. Is there something you'd like to say and say to the students?
Well, I'm up here for, alcohol charge, drinking and driving. I advise you guys not to even start. When you get old enough, turn 21, able to buy certain things, don't even start. Don't even go down that route. Because this guy right here, he'll come behind you, put you in cuffs and take you away for weeks, months, sometimes years. So don't even start. And that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Finley, and I do thank you for agreeing to come and speak in front of the students today. I'm willing to give you a break on the fines and costs because of your willingness to come and share your experience. It's not an easy thing to admit you were wrong, and I truly do appreciate it. I think it means more to the kids coming from you than anything that I say. So, you spent the night in jail? You spent 12 hours in jail. What was that like? Yeah.
It's basically like being in a closet all day. Nobody to talk to. They feed you food, but the food is nothing that you would like to eat. So I wouldn't advise going to jail at all.
Thank you. Okay. I am going to adopt the recommendation. Let's see if I can find my sheet. Recommendation from the based on the pre-sentence report is 1 year probation with this court, 12 months. Do not violate any criminal law of any unit of government. Do not leave the state without the consent of the court. Make a truthful report to the probation officer monthly or as often as the probation officer may require. Notify the probation officer immediately of any change of address or employment status. You did spend the night in jail, the one night? Okay, so 1 day jail with credit for 1 day served. 5 days community service, or the recommendation was 10 days. I cut it down to 5 because of your appearing here today. You're welcome. Attend a MAD impact panel, that's a Mothers Against Drunk Driving. You'll be set up with that through probation. You are to attend an alcohol awareness class, and that you'll be set up with that through probation as well. No going to bars, no associating with drug users, no alcohol, nothing with alcohol in it, and no use of illegal drugs. And you've been testing at JAMS, so we'll continue that. And you haven't missed any tests, as far as you know? No, okay. All right, that is to continue. I won't increase your testing because you've been compliant. As far as sentencing, normally it would be a fine of $300 and costs of $400. Instead of that, it's going to be a fine of $300 and costs of $100 because of your willingness to participate here today. A building fund fee of $20, justice system fee $50, crime victim fee $75, court-appointed attorney cost of $50, cost recovery to city of $250, screening and assessment fee of $125, probation costs of $240, and probation coordination fee of $100. I'm not going to charge you for the work program. So that total comes to $1,310. I'm not concerned about the money. If you're having a difficult time making your payments, we're going to put you on installment payments throughout the term of your probation. If you're having a difficult time with that, come and talk to us about it. We will work with you on that. But the testing you have to do, the MAD impact panel, the probation appointments, all of those are more important than the money. Okay? We do want you to pay your fines and costs, but we're willing to work with you on that. Okay? So you will have to go to the court, to the 29th District Court, to get a copy of your sentencing order. You'll also get your first probation appointment and your payment plan. Okay? So the file should be there when we're done here. So if you plan to go there, we close from 12 to 1. So if you can't make it before 12 o'clock, then you should go after 1. Okay? All right. Good luck. And we may have time for questions at the end, so be thinking about any questions that you might want to ask. I'm not going to ask you now, but be thinking about it, and then when we have time, I'll ask for those questions. People versus Ronnie Lee Forey, case number 18 WC 02208.
Charles Close on behalf of Mr. Forey. Your Honor, today is the day and time set for sentencing in this matter. The court will recall Mr. Forey plead guilty to possession of marijuana. Your Honor, I'd indicate that my client is 59 years old. He hasn't had any negative contact with the police in quite some time. With respect to the pre-sentence report and the testing, I would ask the court, given the fact that it's perhaps not too serious of a crime anyway for a 59-year-old man, I would ask the court to consider reviewing this matter after 6 months. The recommendation is 12 months probation, but I don't think there will be any problem, and I think Mr. Forey will comply with all the court requirements.
Okay. All right, Mr. Forey. The law allows you to give a statement at this time. Is there anything that you would like to say?
Schools must be changing because it's pretty good thing you got going here.
Thank you.
Pretty good.
You think this is a good program?
Well, it looks like it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Is there anything you want to say to the students about the crime?
No, because I'm sure they know everything about my crime.
Possession of marijuana? Okay.
Don't haul it around in your car.
Don't haul it around in your car. That was the message, okay?
No.
All right, okay. All right, Mr. Forey, thank you for being willing to come and speak to the students today. It's not easy to do. Okay, you still need to be quiet. We're still on the record. We're still in court. Okay? All right. I am going to adopt the recommendation for the sentence. It is 1 year probation, but I'm saying here, okay to terminate probation after 6 months if you're in full compliance. Okay? Same standard provisions. Do not violate any criminal law of any unit of government. Do not leave the state without the consent of the court. Make a truthful report to the probation officer monthly or as often as the probation officer may require. Notify the probation officer immediately of any change of address or employment status. 5 days community service. You'll be set up with that through the probation department. Complete outpatient counseling for substance use. You will be required to do that if you test positive or you miss a drug test. We're not making you do that now. Okay? It's being held in abeyance, which means we're using that only if you violate your probation. Okay? You are to submit to random alcohol and drug tests, and that'll be set up through probation. It's being taken under advisement under 7411. It's non-public. It will be dismissed at the end of your probation if you comply with your probation. Also, no driving without a valid driver's license. Do you have a valid license now? Okay. Okay to terminate probation after 6 months. As far as fines and costs, it's a fine of $100. Costs of usually it's $150. I'm reducing that to $50 because of your participation here today. Building fund fee of $20, justice system fee $50, crime victim fee $75, court-appointed attorney costs $50, probation costs of $240, probation coordination fee $75, and work program cost of $150. That total comes to $810. I'm going to indicate here that you'll pay it in installment payments throughout the term of your probation. The sooner you pay it off, the sooner you'd be eligible to be released from probation, assuming all the other provisions were complied with. Okay, any other things that you want to share with the students?
Stay in school.
Stay in school. Good advice.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Ferry. You'll have to stop at the court to get a copy of the sentencing order. Yes.
After this.
Okay? And that was defendant number 3. Okay. Next case, which is defendant number 4, Ana Maria Vargas.
Ready, Judge. Charles Close on behalf of Ana Maria Vargas. Your Honor, today is the day and time set for sentencing in this matter. I have reviewed the pre-sentence report with my client. Factually, it is accurate, Judge. Just a couple of collateral issues. First of all, Judge, we have presented a letter from her treating physician in the file there with respect to her use of marijuana.
Since the last time I seen her.
Since she was previously in court. pursuant to your instructions. And I think there's an indication in there that, number one, that she
I
needs
just
to.
didn't mean any disrespect to the court system at all. When I was first arrested, I completely stopped the use of marijuana.
Good.
And the only reason why I continued after that is because of instability in my mood and trouble with sleeping. I have not been able to see a psychiatrist yet, but once I pay my reinstatement fee and get my driver's license photo ID back, I will be able to make an appointment. Until then, my probation officer has recommended counseling.
Right, the letter that you provided me does not qualify as
That's
far
a
as.
primary care
Right.
physician, you need a
Psychiatrist that says you don't have a problem with addiction. You're on probation for operating while impaired. So I have a concern about substance use disorder. I have a concern about addiction.
Also in that, it does say that when she has seen me, every time I've looked very well nourished, no problems with alcoholism and no problems with drug use from.
Yes, but you have a problem now. You're here in court. I understand that she thinks you don't have a problem, but legally you do.
Understand,
Okay.
and I can comply.
Right, okay. Okay.
Thank you, Judge. In addition, I would like to point out to the court that my client is a director of a nonprofit corporation started by her father. It's called Michael's Angels. They do a lot of work in the Dearborn Heights and Detroit locations, and what they do is they assist in burial services,
Clean up the park.
clean up places, you know, when people can't afford those things, Judge. So it's a very admirable program, and I just wanted to let the court know that she is doing positive
Okay.
things in the community as well.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. I appreciate knowing that. Okay. Anything else? Do you want to say something to the students?
Driving is a privilege, not a right.
And protect that privilege.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. You have not been in trouble before. You have a clean record. You can get past this. Take it as a lesson.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. I am going to adopt the recommendation. It is going to be 1 year probation with this court. You did spend the night in jail?
Yes, I did.
Was it just one night?
Yes.
You were arrested around 9 o'clock. They let you go the next day.
I believe it was the middle of the night.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't a complete full night, but it was some hours, I believe, yes.
1 day jail with credit for 1 day served. Was there anything about that experience that you'd like to share with the students?
I think that one of the other defendants that were up here pretty much summed it up at about it being in a closet all day. It's not fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's a place that you want to avoid.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Need to be quiet. We're still recording. We're still in court. I am adopting the recommendation, 1 year probation, 1 day jail with credit for 1 day served, 5 days community service, attend a MAD impact panel, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, complete outpatient counseling for substance use disorder, and follow all recommendations. No going to bars, no associating with drug users, no alcohol, and no illegal drugs. You are to randomly test. Are you testing now?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So you are to submit to random tests. I'm going to let the probation officer set that up.
Sure.
As far as fines and costs, it is going to be a fine of $300, costs of $100, building fund fee $20, justice system fee $50, crime victim fee $75, court-appointed attorney cost $50, cost recovery to city of $250, screening and assessment fee $125, probation cost $360, probation coordination fee $100, and work program cost of $150. That total comes to $1,580. I'm going to check the box that says installment payments. We'll apply the bond. You'll have to go to the court to apply the bond, get a copy of your sentencing order, and get your first probation appointment.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good luck to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And case number 5, Robert Cornelius Wallace, case number 17WC01376.
For the record,
record, Your Honor, Charles Close on behalf of Robert Wallace. Your Honor, today is the day and time set for sentencing in this matter. Mr. Wallace and I have reviewed the pre-sentence report. It is factually accurate, Judge. Two things that we would bring to the court's attention. Number one, Mr. Wallace's bond was, I believe, forfeited. He came to court late, or at least he's under the impression that it was. We would ask the court to reinstate that if at all possible. He was there the same day. He was just late for his appearance.
Right. I see. He came at 10:15. He was supposed to be there at 9. Okay.
Secondly, Judge, with respect to the recommendation, my client, quite candidly, has been on parole, I believe, before. He's been subject to testing quite often. He has never tested positive. The reason I raise this, Judge, is that there is a recommendation for outpatient counseling. I would ask the court to consider holding that in abeyance unless and until he does not comply with the court's order. As I indicated, he's never tested positive or anything like that, and certainly recognizes the seriousness of this crime.
Yes.
Other than that, Judge, we're ready to be sentenced.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think the recommendation was made based not only on this charge, but some of his history. You know, a couple years ago, there was a possession of marijuana. It could be partly because of that.
No, and I understand, Judge. You know, the court would certainly maintain.
Also, the needs assessment. Needs assessment came back, suggests he has a severe cannabis use disorder in sustained remission. So I think that points to counseling to keep it away, to keep you in remission,
No,
give you the tools.
I don't use it at all.
No, it's in remission. That means that, no, it's a chronic problem. I mean, these diseases don't just go away. They're in remission, meaning you're not actively doing it now, but you're at risk.
Okay.
Okay, you're at risk, and research has shown that your chances of staying away from it are better if you get counseling. So that's our reason for recommending it.
Yeah, I was just saying, not the kind of I work so much, and I got a child on the way, and then like I've been in counseling and did probations and paroles before, and I never dropped dirty. Like it's never been an issue. Like, and I don't do drugs, so like I figure if I'm dropping, what would be the need for like I can drop like test today and you know it come
Hold
back
in abeyance for now, but if you do violate, then you would be ordered to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Even though this isn't operating while impaired, and I normally wouldn't do that. Okay. Is there anything you want to say to the students?
Stay in school, make choices for the future, don't live in the now, and don't drink and drive.
Have you learned anything from this particular case? This happened a year ago, by the way, back in 2017.
Yes, make better choices. Pick and choose your peers wisely.
And why is that?
Because you don't necessarily have to be the one doing the trouble. If you're around bad situations and with people with bad intentions, you can get caught up in the same situation.
Yeah, you're judged by the company you keep.
Yes.
And that's true in law. If you tend to hang around with people who do stuff, bad stuff, chances are you're going to do it, or you're going to get charged with doing it.
Yeah, so obey the law.
Okay. All right. That's a good message. Thank you for agreeing to come here today. It does take courage to come here.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it. Okay. I am going to adopt the recommendation mostly. Standard provisions apply. Do not violate any law. Don't leave the state. Truthful report. Notify the probation officer of any change of address or employment status. Did you spend any time in jail back in 2017 when you were picked up for this?
No, but when I showed up for court late, I did 3 days.
3 days?
Yes.
3 days jail with credit for 3 days served. 5 days community service or 5 days jail through the Westland Work Program. Attend a MAD impact panel at your own expense. Attend outpatient counseling. Hold in abeyance at first violation. I'm not saying there will be one, but if there is one. No alcohol, no use of illegal drugs. Submit to random alcohol and drug tests. No associating with drug users. Are you being tested now?
No.
We'll set up testing through probation. No driving without a valid license. Fines and costs on the allowing a suspended person to drive. Those fines and costs total $290. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. You can get a copy of this when you go to the court. As far as the operating while impaired, that total comes to $1,455. So the two totals together come to $1,745. You will get your first probation appointment at the counter. You'll get your installment payment plan. If you're having trouble with the money, come and talk to me about it.
Okay.
Don't just ignore it. But if you're doing everything else, you're not going to be violated just for that.
Okay.
We will work with you on the money.
So I will go to the 29th district afterwards to
Yes.
the counter? Okay.
Yes, we close from 12 to 1, but we will be open all afternoon.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll have to come to the court, get a copy of this, and get a copy of, or get your first probation appointment and your payment plan. Okay?
Yes.
And thank you for
Thank you.
participating in our Constitution Day celebration.
Thank you.
Just have a seat. Judge, there's one thing I did want to say, correct myself. When one of the people came up, they were charged with marijuana, and I said, well, it's not a serious crime.
Okay.
It is a serious crime, Judge.
Okay.
I don't know why I said that, but
Okay.
Please don't take what I said to be true.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. All right, we have a few minutes. We have like 11 minutes, I understand, 12 minutes for questions. Who wants to ask a question? Who wants to be brave and ask a question? Yes. Oh, you had your hand up. Okay. So have you figured out which amendment deals with search and seizure? Which amendment to the Constitution? Anybody have an idea? The Fourth Amendment. Fourth Amendment to the Constitution says the people shall be secure and free from unreasonable searches and seizures. A search and a seizure, if a police officer stops you while you're driving, that could be a search and a seizure. A seizure is a stop. You're stopped. You're not free to go. That's a seizure and a search. So when police officers pull you over, that involves the Fourth Amendment every single day. Everything they do involves the Fourth Amendment practically. So it's good for citizens to understand what that is, what their rights are in that regard. Anybody have any questions about that? Yes, in the back. Can you come up? I can't hear you back there. Sorry. You're a brave soul. Microphone.
Do you, what's the least effective crime that would, make you not have the biggest, it's hard to explain what I'm trying to say, but what's the crime that would give you the least amount of trouble to deal with in the court?
Oh, okay. Well, what we deal with in district court, we deal with traffic matters. So that could be a civil infraction like speeding. That's not a crime. A civil infraction is not a crime. Next step up from that is a misdemeanor. That's a crime where you could go to jail for up to 1 year. When you go up from that, that's a felony. If you can go to jail for more than 1 year, it's called a felony. So we deal with civil infractions like speeding, parking your car illegally, parking ticket, that's a civil infraction. So that's not even considered a crime. You can't go to jail for that normally. Okay, so a parking ticket would probably be the least serious kind of offense that we see. Drunk driving is probably one of the more serious offenses that we see. Not only it's just the cost to society, the cost to the people. It can be a very difficult thing for the people who get a charge of drunk driving. They end up having to pay, as you see, up to $2,000, sometimes in just fines and costs. Their car insurance can go up. They can end up paying over $10,000 for a drunk driving ticket. It's extremely expensive. You all are going to be driving in a few years. I have some tips for you. If you're going to drive, don't let people in your car that have marijuana. If you let a friend in that's got marijuana, police pull you over, they smell the marijuana, they can search your car. And they charge you with marijuana, with having it in the car. Driving is a privilege, it's not a right, and there are rules. So driving is a huge privilege, it's worth protecting. Yes, sir, you have a question? What? Go ahead.
All right, so what's the most common crime?
Most common crime. The number one crime in the city of Wayne is driving on a suspended license. Not very exciting, but
Is there any how many people like say somebody get in trouble, right? Is there anybody that's just like speed it off?
Oh,
Like-
sure. Sure. But you know what? If you do that, you mean when they get caught doing something and then they just take off?
Yeah.
That's called fleeing and eluding. And that can be a felony. So once the police do catch you, you're in a lot more trouble than if you'd have just stayed. So fleeing and eluding a police officer can land you in prison.
How much what's the worst case scenario of that happening? Like
fleeing and
yeah,
eluding?
like the worst case scenario.
Well, it depends on what else is going on, what your criminal record's like. You know, as in many things in law, it's not cut and dried. It's not like, here's the rule, this is the way it always is. Not happening. There's things called plea agreements. Let's say you did some other crime. That might be dropped in exchange for a plea of guilty on something else. So it's not a horrible crime, but it is a felony if you do that. So it's just not advisable. You're better off to stay and take your medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Don't panic. Don't give in to the panic. Okay? You're better off stopping and facing the music than running away. Usually running away is not a good strategy.
Wait, I got one more question.
Okay, hurry.
Alright.
We got other people waiting.
Was there other people that were supposed to come up here that didn't show up? Like, was there more people supposed to come that didn't show up?
Nope, everybody that we were, and if they didn't appear, we do what's called a bench warrant, meaning I sign a piece of paper that tells the police to bring this person to me. So if their person is out driving somewhere and the police happen to see that this person is there, they pick them up and bring them to the jail, and I arraign them. So a bench warrant's not a good thing.
Okay.
Hello.
What are the entire Miranda rights?
What are the entire Miranda rights? Well, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say, orally or in writing, can and will be used against you in court. You have the right to have an attorney present during any questioning. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you at public expense. I think it's a shorthand version of it. Basically, you don't have to say anything. If you do say something, it can be used against you. You have the right to an attorney if you're being questioned. If you don't want to be questioned without an attorney, you can say, I'm not answering any questions till I have an attorney. That is your right as a defendant. But that doesn't kick in until you're in custody, until the police take you into custody. Then it applies. Before that, they don't have to tell you that because you're not in custody and you're free to leave. Next question? Oh, wait, go ahead.
Have there ever been any officers that have ignored the Miranda? No, it's confused. Is there? Sorry, I forgot.
That's okay. It's okay. Go ahead.
What's the worst crime you ever had to deal with?
A couple murders. Children is especially bad. Children dying. I mean, I don't do the whole thing. I do what's called the preliminary exam, the arraignment where I tell them the charge, and then the preliminary exam, which is a mini trial. It's a probable cause hearing, but the prosecution calls witnesses, the defendant is there. It's like a mini trial. And then I make a determination of whether there's probable cause that a crime was committed and it was committed by this person. If there is, I bind it over to the Wayne County Circuit Court and they handle it from there. But I do deal with anybody who commits a crime in the city of Wayne comes to me for arraignment. So I do all the arraignments for every crime in the city. And I'd say murder is probably the worst. It's very sad for everyone. Yes?
What are the worst drug or alcohol charges that you've encountered?
What are the worst alcohol charges? Sometimes people driving with a very high intoxication rate. Sometimes they're driving with children in the car. Sometimes they're in an accident. There was one recently where there was a drunk driver that caused a death. An accident, ran through 2 red lights, hit a car broadside and killed a woman. That's probably the worst.
What's the rarest crime you ever had to face?
The rarest crime? Gosh, I'm trying to think. There's been some pretty weird crimes. I think I had one charge where somebody threw a pickle out the window and got charged with littering. So I think that was pretty weird, you know? Like a pickle. Okay, we still have a couple more minutes.
Have
Have you ever locked somebody up for life? And if you have, how often?
What was that?
Have you locked somebody up for life? And if you have, how often?
No. That's one thing I don't do. I'm a district court judge. Only circuit judges or federal judges get to lock people up for life. I don't have to do that, and I'm very glad that I don't, because that's a very sad thing. Yes.
How long do you have to go to school to become a judge?
That's a good question. Well, I had to get a 4-year degree. That took me 12 years because I didn't go right out of high school. I took a couple classes at a time. It took me 12 years to get a 4-year degree. Then I went to law school at night while I was working full time. That took me 5 years. So altogether, it took me 17 years to get my law degree. So, but it normally would take you 4 years of undergrad and 3 years of law school. So normally it would be a 7-year. Okay? Lots of school. Yes.
If you ever hurt anybody out of self-defense, can you be charged for anything?
What was that?
Say like somebody hit you and you hit them back. Can you be charged for anything for self-defense?
That's an excellent question. He said if somebody hit you and you hit them back, there is something called self-defense. However, self-defense is very narrow. Usually self-defense does not apply. Let's say you're in the cafeteria and some guy says, hey, I don't like your boots. You know, and then you start saying stuff to him, I don't like your mother. And he hits you. And you can walk away, but you hit him back. That's not self-defense. That's hitting him because you're mad, because he hit you. Self-defense is if you can't get away any other way than by hitting him. You're supposed to walk away. You're not supposed to hit him back. Okay? You could be charged. You could both be charged with fighting, and that's not good. Always avoid violence. Violence can get you in bad places. Violence is to be avoided at all costs. Okay, I think we're out of time. Ari? 14 years. 15 in January. Be well, everybody. Be good.